In the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Any comments, questions, changes?
Motion to approve the agenda.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to delegations, Mr. Peterson.
I have no delegations this evening.
All right, we'll move on to the proposed consent agenda. Any comments or questions here?
I will, motion to approve the proposed consent agenda.
I will second the approval.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving on to public comments. Do we have any electronic? All right. Seeing no public comments, we'll move on to principal reports. I know something is not from us tonight, so we have hers in our email.
Correct.
And with that, we'll go to Mr. Davidson first.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Peterson. Thank you for having me here this evening. It's been a busy January and February and early March at the middle school. Again, we're still working on having kids feel connected to the school, building powerful relationships and helping them envision their future. January and February students of the month have been recognized, and we're getting ready to push that out on Parent Square so that everyone will see their smiling faces and their certificates. We've had a lot of Cubs being caught being awesome, and kids come down with their caught being awesome tag, put it in the jar for the weekly drawing. They get a treat from Ms. Libby and Ms. Hahn, and then they get their photo taken, and it's kind of a feel-good moment as we continue to strengthen this positive culture down there at the middle school. February, we worked with our ESD migrant counselor, and they ran a kindness campaign and partnered with our leadership class. And this was pretty cool. The leadership class made hand written kindness notes to each staff member on a template, and they made a little heart with each staff member's name on it and attached it, and they would go deliver it. And when you go into classrooms, you can see teachers have them up on their walls. It's pretty cool. On the Cub News, the news reporters gave staff shout outs all month, and thankful for their teachers and all that they're doing for them this year. We had our Winter Wonderland dance in February. It was a big hit. Our next dance is planned for March 21st. It's gonna be some type of glow party. We are going to initiate including the sixth graders in this dance, and we're gonna open up the gym as additional space so that we can have people cutting the rug on the dance floor, the food area, and then some games in the gym. So we're gonna see how this goes, but we want to involve all of our kids in as many of our activities as we can. March 19th, we've got a 8th grade tour at TriTech. We're gonna bus our 8th graders down there. They're gonna tour all of the TriTech facilities for about an hour and a half and kind of help them envision what they might be able to do as they get later into high school the last couple of years. March 24th, our spring sports begin. We got boys soccer, baseball, girls softball, boys and girls track. Fingers crossed. we're always looking for coaches, so if you know anyone out there who's looking to coach, especially boys and girls track, you can send them my way or to Mr. Hanson. We would love to talk to all of them. We're in the final preparations for grades 6 to 8 SBA and the 8th grade science test. Those are scheduled for mid-April and they should last a couple weeks. And we've been really focusing on writing strategies this year. So we've been using common strategy for writing in all subject areas this year. And what we're anticipating is that when kids go from class to class and they're asked to do the same type of strategy in different content areas, that this will strengthen their writing and academic improvement in all areas. So we need a little more time to look at the data, but we're working as a cohesive unit to do the same strategy so that kids, when they walk into a class, that they know, oh, this is the same strategy I used in English. I just need to apply that to math content and history and so forth. So part of that for me has been being able to observe my teachers talking to each other, planning these writing prompts, scheduling them out so that they're not all giving them on the same day. So it's been kind of cool watching them work together and adjust instruction based on the results that they get back from those prompts. And last but not least, Camp Wooten 2025 is in full gear. We're going to get as many 6th graders up there as possible, and it's scheduled for June 2nd to 6th. And it is going to be exciting. So thank you. And did you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, and come on by anytime. The door's always open. Thanks.
We'll let you know that.
Been a while since I've been here, so some really cool stuff. We had our Plaza with the Cause go on a DC trip. Did some great stuff while they were there and visited our legislators and stuff. Had tours by their staff, personal tours that went under the legislative building on the little tram that they have down there and so forth. We've had, obviously you guys know that we've had the one athlete who won state wrestling championship, which is awesome. FBLA and FFA students have qualified for state and they're preparing for that and a lot of different contests that they've had. Spring season starting, thank goodness it actually feels like spring, not like winter, you know, so it's kind of weird here, but we do have tennis starting tomorrow. There'll be a Wahluke, then we have a home match on Thursday, and then on Thursday, baseball has a jamboree at Sunnyside. On Saturday, the softball team goes to Hanford for a jamboree. And then we're looking forward to the SBA testing, and we're going backwards in this, and that we're going away from doing it over weeks, and we're going to shoot out the SBA test to the students. And so we're going to have a 10 o'clock late start. So all the kids who ride a bus to school still need to ride a bus to school. All the kids who are testing 10th grade, they'll all be here. 9, 11, 12 will not have to come until 10 o'clock. The idea is in that 1 week, we'll get ESL done on Monday, Tuesday, math and science on Thursday, and it'll all be done. The only thing we'll have to do after that is the makeup test. That used to take us like 3 weeks to do, pulling kids in and out of classes. And so we had this run class, can't run class, depending on how many kids in your class, how much can you really do and so forth. So we're pretty excited to get that going again so that we can use our time more appropriately. And then the first week of May is our prom. And obviously you guys all know that May 31st is our graduation, 9 o'clock. That's, I mean, it's just all downhill now. I mean, slope kind of went like this and I just dropped straight down. So, especially after spring break, then it really flies. One nice thing is they split up the state championships this year so that some are on that weekend of Memorial Day weekend. And then they have, like, I think softball's on that weekend and the following weekend is baseball. So, The only bad thing on a graduation is there might be a state championship there. That would be a nice problem to have to worry about, to be honest. And we have some contingency plans if we need to do something. You know, so anybody have any questions?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Uh-huh.
All right, moving on to the new business, personnel and related costs over time, Mr. Peterson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Skipper. So I've got a couple handouts for you. First off, I want to thank Mona and Heidi for putting this together for me. I was involved in superintendent's meeting last Thursday, ESD on Friday. So quite frankly, they were able to put together some really nice reports. Mona, thank you for all the nice colors. I don't do colors myself, but and this really is the first step in evaluation of where are we going with potential cuts for the next budget cycle. And part of that was in my ask to Mona and Heidi to come up with not a comprehensive list, but a pretty good list of things that, quite frankly, have already been cut. So the first thing that I'm going to give you are a personnel report that Mona's been keeping for the past few years. And what you will see are classified positions, when they were cut, and of course that they've continued to be cut, along with the dollar figure for each one of those. And so you will see classified, you will see certified, and then administrative. So I will pass down 4 of those. And the important thing to remember about each of these positions is that these are annual costs. So this is more than simply a one-time only. These are annual costs that the district has already eliminated, and thus we see the savings on a continuing basis. And I'll give you a minute to digest that. And I tried to keep it, and I explained to Mona and Heidi that this was really a very initial 30,000 foot view. So it's not as detailed as we certainly can get, but I wanted to just set the groundwork. And then in this item, what you will see are things that this year we came into the year either planning or cutting immediately, things that are all new within 24-25 have been cut. For some, they were truly cuts, meaning we no longer provided the service. For some, there's one person who accepted a different position, so we simply didn't refill that position. And then you will see some current costs listed. These are in the form of the first 2 being contracts that we have through the ESD. We have an overall average curriculum budget that we have averaged for the past few years, and then our insurance cost. And again, this is not all inclusive. However, it certainly gives you a feel for where there are potential cuts, things that we have already tried to take off the books now. And then in some of these areas, we're going to expand that and see if we can't get some additional costs. When you look at what we have cut already on this second handout that I gave you, like UniFirst was a custodial expense for rugs and things of that nature, so that we no longer have that service done. We take care of those ourselves. We eliminated a module out of our Talented online our program for personnel HR. Forecast 5, if you remember, over the past few years, we put together some really fancy-dancy charts and graphs around the budget. And these were all taken directly out of the Forecast 5 module. We eliminated that because we do have the ability to make graphs and charts without using that fancy program. The Remind tool was eliminated completely from the district when we adopted Parent Square. We have reduced or eliminated several cell phones, hotspots that we have kept on the books and had available for kids. Quite frankly, the ones that we had not checked out, we simply turn them off. And the ones that are broken or no longer being used, we turn those off as well. You see Bethany Dabbling is the piano accompanist. That's the person I referred to that's taken a different position. We are now refinishing the gym floors ourselves. And quite frankly, the custodians are very proud of that. They do a nice job, and it saves us $7,000 a year. We have eliminated Candy Mountain this year, which is a bit of a double-edged sword because, quite frankly, it's not just something that we decided to eliminate. We no longer have the need for it. It is something that could, given the right student with the right requirements from an IEP, it could come back. We just have to make sure that that's our last resort. And then our quarterly newsletters. Heck, I'm almost surprised that it only cost us $18,000 to do those quarterly newsletters, considering it costs 77 cents to mail a regular old letter now. Then when you get into that next group of communication contract, the CTE administration fee, which is a separate contract through the ESD, curriculum and insurance, I think those are all up for certain amounts of debate. However, you know, our insurance, we quite frankly can't do business without being insured. I had a wonderful conversation with Mona earlier tonight and said, quite frankly, expect another 20 to 30% increase in our insurance costs. Yes, sir.
I have just a quick question. In doing this and looking at the budget cuts that are probably coming here on the move, okay, eventually roll them. Can we, these are good, but what I'm saying is, well, are they too early such that we could take credit for them in 6-8 months if the state said, hey, you gotta make a cut? Well, this is part of what we've cut. Is there a timing? Is there any chance that we get into a timing issue of, no, you guys did that, get some new stuff?
It's a great question. I personally feel that anything that's on the second sheet that I gave you, those are all very current, either right prior to the 24-25 school year or even during the 24-25 school year. I think those are current. Some of the personnel costs that are on the other sheet, you will see have accrued over time. And so these are, in some cases, cuts that were made 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but we keep them on the books so that you can continue to see them. We do not have listed out here yet any of our current open positions, which of course, depending on the mood of the board and where we want to go with what type of cuts would make it dependent then on whether we post those or not. You know, we do have 5 certified retirements this year. We've got some classified retirements. So there's going to be some movement, but really it's going to be also some condensing of positions. If we have someone, for instance, we currently have 6 kindergarten classrooms. Will we have enough to keep that cohort together moving into first grade? We've got one group that kind of has a rover right now of a moving teacher, but as those numbers come down, I would anticipate us looking very hard at that class size. Now, then we start getting into the discussion of, okay, does that 6th teacher, for instance, even though it may really not be absolutely necessary, it may be the key to us getting into the K3 class size scenario and how much additional funding we're going to get from that. Because if we don't meet that 17-1, then we're out much more than the cost of a teacher. So are still some balancing acts to be made. With one of the next things that I think the board is going to want to see are our enrollment numbers and where we're going to be projecting moving forward. You know, we have seen a decline since January in the number of students that we have. We dropped below 1,300 for the first time in a significant amount of time. So as we see more kids dropping, we understand that our FTEs are going to be based on that. So simply rolling up to look at next year's cohort, I think is going to be our first order of business. But then at our superintendent meeting last week for the small schools, they are all very concerned about the incoming kindergarten class. They're not seeing the numbers from their local daycares, their local ECAPs, their transitional kindergarten programs. They're very concerned about what next year's kindergarten looks like. I think we're in, quite frankly, the same boat. We are not at the same level that we were at this time last year in ECAP numbers and in our transitional kindergarten numbers. Then there's the question of transitional kindergarten itself. You know, there were the first 2 years that we had 2 teachers. The following year, we went down to 1. We have been at 1 ever since. Will we see the numbers get to a point where we can afford the 1? Quite frankly. So those are all things I hope get taken care of early. But in the case of a TK, some of those kids don't even show up to register until the week before school starts. So it could be quite a last minute decision, even with a budget that's already been forecast and approved by the board. We would want that ability then to grab that teacher back real quick and start that classroom. But like I said, this is a 30,000-foot view and really is meant to, I don't want to say pique your interest because it's obviously your interest. You're on the school board. But it really is meant to drive further questions about what the district can provide to give you the best ability to make decisions moving forward.
Yeah, I think one thing that would help is specifically on the curriculum, if we have a long-term schedule of those planned upgrades, when we plan to do that for each subject, for each grade level.
Okay.
So then we can consider what a modified version might look like, and certainly the prioritization on all those, like when the last upgrade was for each curriculum item.
Okay.
Be good to know what's urgent versus what could wait.
And typically, whenever we have done any, whenever we've pressed pause on curriculum adoption, we haven't shifted any of the what's next in line. We've simply paused it where it was with the idea we'll pick it up later. Now, when we came back from COVID, we did make the decision that we had to move the elementary reading to be one of the first ones. And certainly I and the principals would be open to that kind of a discussion. But the standard practice has been that we just pause.
Okay.
And I will have that for you though, along with some enrollment projections for the meeting on the 24th, because things are going to get, obviously we're wanting to make some guiding decisions, obviously that'll be then budgeted for and give you the board some options.
Okay. And yeah, I can't imagine we have all that much flexibility with insurance, as you mentioned, but for the 2 ESD items, I'd be curious what our options are there.
Yep. And certainly when we look at, and again, this is one of those discussions, I'd be more than happy to pick up a CTE oversight. We don't have anyone in the district with the proper certification to be able to do that. That's one of the things. Now, what I will tell you is I would love to be able to get into some negotiations with the ESD as opposed to just being told what it is. They're facing some of the same budget cuts from the state that we are. If I could even get a guarantee it's not going to go up, I'd be perfectly happy with that, quite frankly, for some of these costs. But not only, I think these are the first two that we always tend to list out as being some options that are on the table. But there, we purchase and utilize the ESD sometimes for services that we simply can't get anywhere else, especially in the special ed arena. And whenever we're talking about something special ed related, of course, those are driven by IEPs and legalities that we don't have the option of just saying, no, we're going to go look for someone cheaper. We have to bring it in. But that's why these two are always at the top of the list. So, I think by next board meeting as well, that we are going to be able to provide, because you can see, and we get taken to task for this, but librarians were one of our larger costs that we have eliminated over the years. And quite frankly, I don't know that would be the first place that I would put back somebody to fill that role, quite frankly. And in fact, libraries aren't even being built. They're building media centers as new schools come around. I don't know of a single university that still offers a library technician certification. Everything has gone to information technology now. So we'll get some further information for you, but I would encourage you to take a look at these and see if it piques questions for you. If any of this information then creates the next level of questions, really what I'm after is trying to drive that conversation deeper. I do think it would behoove us to have, before spring break, a community forum, whether that's in the form of a board work session, whether that's a informal, I want to say an informal board meeting like we've had in the past, where we have simply two board members present with an open dialogue, or whether we move it out of this boardroom and into a different scenario. I think the time has come that we need to get some feedback from our community, though.
Yeah, that's real important, and also to our clients, the public out there. Also making sure they understand the budget pressures we are under or going to be under. So that there's more of a clear, oh, well, that's what we're gonna have to do. We don't have any control of it locally. And this is just what's here. And so we have to make some cuts. And are they fun? No, they're not. But that's business.
Yep. Okay. So I will look at getting us some times and potential locations, and then shoot those out to the board and see what works for. Remember, it only has to work for two of you. Moving that one forward, obviously, though, I anticipate more than one, so more than one opportunity to get in front of our community and get some feedback. I'd also like to propose that I put out, well, I'll press send perhaps on the request, but have us develop a survey that we could do a rank order survey of certain priorities and put it on our website. The only problem with that is I think we might try and utilize Parent Square this time. The last few times that we've done surveys online on our website, we've had very few responses. But maybe if we embed it into Parent Square and send it directly to parents, we might get a better response. I don't want to leave a stone unturned, though, prior to approving a budget with some potential large cuts in it.
Yeah, if we just put out the parents, though, I think we're missing a pretty significant chunk of the community that
Agreed.
not a parent. Okay.
So like I said, this is really meant to be the very first part of the discussion, and hopefully it'll give you some guidance into what you would like to see moving forward. But I guarantee the enrollment factor, as well as our current open positions and potential for combining some of those, will be on our next agenda. Thank you.
And moving on to board comments.
Nothing this week.
Yeah,
You
we talked a bunch. All right, with that, we'll move into executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, section 1G, performance of a public employee for 30 minutes with no business to follow. So we will be adjourned. Thank you.